Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement. This episode is dedicated to your one friend who's avoiding a tough conversation. Totally. We should talk about that. Did you see my new hat? We're good. We don't need to talk about that. Do we? I should probably go clean my entire house. I gotta wash my hair. I don't want this to be a big thing. I'm just trying to protect the vibe. I just remembered I gotta go send an email thing. Squirrel! BRB, I gotta go show the squirrel my new hat. You know the one.
I know the one.
Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement, the only mental health comedy game show that's curious. How you doing? This week, we're talking about a feeling that often gets misunderstood, oversimplified, or quietly ignored, and that's determining how much of yourself you're bringing to the room. We're talking about the feeling of security and the coping skill of psychological safety. I'm Lori Sharp Page, your Chief Coping Officer and host, and sitting next to me is our perennial contestant, our behaviorist at large, and someone who has to leave recording early to pick up a cake. It's Crimson McDonald. I also need to introduce you, the viewer at home, the one who takes our weekly survey, shows up to join us to practice staying more regulated in a dysregulating world. You're our most important contestant. Our insight of the week comes from Gabor Mate, and it's this: safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Read it again, hear it again, because most of us are trying to feel safe by eliminating risk. But, like, I got to tell you, that definitely doesn't work in 2026. And I have to be honest, I don't think it ever really worked, which is part of what we're doing here. Crimson, thoughts?
Honestly, Gabor is one of my favorites, like of all the people that are out there. And it's because I feel like he has very realist expectations on humans. And he's right. You can't avoid the threat. It's much like you say, Lori, the lemons are going to be there. It's what you do with them. And what we preach is the connection part, whether it's being connected to yourself and understanding what's going on internally or being connected to a community to help keep you lifted. There's no avoiding threat. So the only way that you can be safe is to have this self and environmental efficacy, which is connection.
Absolutely. Oftentimes, people will avoid conflict, they'll avoid emotions, they'll avoid vulnerability, and they don't realize that by doing all those things, they stay stuck. They can't grow through them. They can't make their relationships adjust the way that they need to adjust. And sometimes we'll wake up being like, wait a second, we did all the things that we thought would keep us safe, but we find out that just because we're in a threat-free environment, which isn't really a thing, but even if you could create a completely threat-free here, you're still not safe, because safety is an internal thing. It's not about controlling the environment. It comes from you knowing you're not alone inside that moment. And sometimes we have more control over that versus other times. And it's a fine needle system in that you need to be always assessing your threat level and your safety in order to stay alive, which is your brain's number one job. So part of this is understanding how you work within that system, and trying to control everything on the outside is not it. Although we do want to reduce threats where we can. That's totally true. But reducing all threats or avoiding everything to stay safe is actually you just checking out of your own life and not growing emotionally to be able to cope with all those things that you want to avoid. And look, I love a good avoidance, just like probably more so than most people. Like, that's a big part of where most of this work comes from, is I just realized how poorly it worked for me. And then I had the privilege of seeing how poorly it's worked for a bunch of different clients and also friends, family. I mean, I could go on and on. But the point here, and I agree, Gabor is one of my favorites. He's one of the greats. The point here is that safety is a perceived internal sense. It speaks to connection. It speaks to risk as well, and it speaks to threats. But most of the time, especially when we're talking about psychological safety, it speaks to some sort of perception. And we have some control over our perceptions to begin with by doing the reps and building the neural networks that support being able to accurately assess and sit in the discomfort while you assess. on the safety of the field, but also because we as humans need to be aware that this is always happening in the background. And we have the ability to respond to it when it happens. So even if you've done the hard work of building the neural networks and creating more psychological safety in your life, you will get dysregulated. And so then it comes down to how confident, what's your self-efficacy on dealing with that when it pops up. I just love this quote. I just think it just says it so well, so clearly, because so much of what we do to keep ourselves safe is focusing on controlling the external when really the call is coming from inside the house, right?
I also it speaks to just the evolution of mankind. We are a tribal species at the end of the day. We have always had a sense of tribalism, and so it makes sense that at the most core root of our being, having a connection is what makes us feel safe. I mean, that's why you had your pack. That's why you had your tribe.
100%. 100%. Our insight of the week comes from Gabor Mate, and it's this: safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Read it again, hear it again, because most of us are trying to feel safe by eliminating risk. But, like, I got to tell you, that definitely doesn't work in 2026. And I have to be honest, I don't think it ever really worked, which is part of what we're doing here. Crimson, thoughts?
Honestly, Gabor is one of my favorites, like of all the people that are out there. And it's because I feel like he has very realist expectations on humans. And he's right. You can't avoid the threat. It's much like you say, Lori, the lemons are going to be there. It's what you do with them. And what we preach is the connection part, whether it's being connected to yourself and understanding what's going on internally or being connected to a community to help keep you lifted. There's no avoiding threat. So the only way that you can be safe is to have this self and environmental efficacy, which is connection.
Absolutely. Oftentimes, people will avoid conflict, they'll avoid emotions, they'll avoid vulnerability, and they don't realize that by doing all those things, they stay stuck. They can't grow through them. They can't make their relationships adjust the way that they need to adjust. And sometimes we'll wake up being like, wait a second, we did all the things that we thought would keep us safe, but we find out that just because we're in a threat-free environment, which isn't really a thing, but even if you could create a completely threat-free here, you're still not safe, because safety is an internal thing. It's not about controlling the environment. It comes from you knowing you're not alone inside that moment. And sometimes we have more control over that versus other times. And it's a fine needle system in that you need to be always assessing your threat level and your safety in order to stay alive, which is your brain's number one job. So part of this is understanding how you work within that system, and trying to control everything on the outside is not it. Although we do want to reduce threats where we can. That's totally true. But reducing all threats or avoiding everything to stay safe is actually you just checking out of your own life and not growing emotionally to be able to cope with all those things that you want to avoid. And look, I love a good avoidance, just like probably more so than most people. Like, that's a big part of where most of this work comes from, is I just realized how poorly it worked for me. And then I had the privilege of seeing how poorly it's worked for a bunch of different clients and also friends, family. I mean, I could go on and on. But the point here, and I agree, Gabor is one of my favorites. He's one of the greats. The point here is that safety is a perceived internal sense. It speaks to connection. It speaks to risk as well, and it speaks to threats. But most of the time, especially when we're talking about psychological safety, it speaks to some sort of perception. And we have some control over our perceptions to begin with by doing the reps and building the neural networks that support being able to accurately assess and sit in the discomfort while you assess on the safety of the field. But also because we as humans need to be aware that this is always happening in the background, and we have the ability to respond to it when it happens. So even if you've done the hard work of building the neural networks and creating more psychological safety in your life, you will get dysregulated. And so then it comes down to how confident, what's your self-efficacy on dealing with that when it pops up. I just love this quote. I just think it just says it so well, so clearly, because so much of what we do to keep ourselves safe is focusing on controlling the external when really the call is coming from inside the house, right?
I also it speaks to just the evolution of mankind. We are a tribal species at the end of the day. We have always had a sense of tribalism, and so it makes sense that at the most core root of our being, having a connection is what makes us feel safe. I mean, that's why you had your pack. That's why you had your tribe.
100%. 100%. We're going to play a round of show and tell, secure edition. What are the things that make us feel secure or maybe even insecure in our life? And we bring them to the table and share them vulnerably with you so that, we can talk about it all a little bit more. Crimson, you're going to get us started.
Mine's music. So I got to be honest with you, it was funny how quickly my gut, when I was asked the question, was to go to like external sources, like my husband. But I think it's really important for it to be internal. And honestly, music. Music has been the one constant in my life. In my childhood, it was the one thing that didn't cause conflict in my family. It was the thing that united us. And I feel like every season of my life has like a soundtrack that goes with it. And I cope through music. And what song that is and how that manifests is based on what season I'm in. Like I remember graduate school was like my Ryan Adams, like Let It Ride, Cold Roses phase. When I had Atticus, my first kid, it was all about the Avett Brothers. After the pandemic, Pink hit hard. I have these sections in life and they are all marked by music because I grew up atheist. My family was atheist. When you don't really praise anything, you need something to lean on in hard times. And my faith was in music. It was my safe space. It was where I felt comfortable. And it's been hilarious when I was thinking about it. It is how I regulate my nervous system often. Dentist appointment, earbuds in, music up. Basically any discomfort, right? Like I need to focus. I have music for that. I highly recommend Armic. It's Spanish guitar. It's great. But music I use to cope in so many different ways, from focusing to my mental health, just staying stable, or to ground myself. Music is my safe space. And even with concerts, like I have always gone to concerts my entire life. It is like church to me. And so music has become my safe space. And it's not surprising I married a musician. It's not, music is a huge part of our lives. And I'm passing that gift to my kids. And both of my kids are obsessed with all kinds of music. It's actually really cool because I know their friends, and all their friends just like, I don't know that song. I don't know that song. And our kids are like running them through. Let me give you the lesson. Have you heard Led Zeppelin? So I think it's a tradition that I will pass on to my kids. And I know my son already, I see, use it as a coping mechanism. So my safe space and what makes me feel secure is having good music on.
Absolutely. I love what you said about having different eras of music. I'm currently in my Bad Bunny era. I'm obsessed. But it's interesting because I can't sing along. I love to sing along. I am unable to sing along to the Bad Bunny songs, but I really like
Suggestion.
them.
I think I'm a little bit older than you, and I don't think you did the grunge thing. But as a Pearl Jam fan and Eddie Vedder fan, I got to be honest with you, just make it up. Like I can understand Bad Bunny as well as I can understand Eddie Vedder. Just that is
So my third grade teacher was a huge fan of Pearl Jam.
I mean, that's makes me feel
And
old,
so
even though
I
we're only a
was
couple
I
years
was
apart.
given the gift of Pearl Jam young, and I got to see Eddie Vedder in concert a few years back. It wasn't obviously Pearl Jam, it was just him, but it was good. But I get what you're saying. I just need to lean in like yeah,
No.
just go, just feel it. Let's
Although I
happen.
looked up some lyrics and I was like, ooh. But that's just because I'm old and a prude. But so it might be better not to know, but just know that there's like either like really heavy stuff in there, or there's like very superficial, like very
Well,
throwback to the 90s.
I've developed a whole other subgenre on my FYP page on TikTok that is just people translating his music.
I mean, some of it you're like, "Oh my god, this is like Kendrick Lamar level," and then some of it I'm like, "Oh, we're like at 50 Cent in the club." So,
Yeah,
he's got a
there's a
range.
spectrum. I like it.
It's a good range.
But I agree, music is a hugely healing thing, and I think it is important to bring what's internal. I'm bringing something a little bit different. I'm bringing something that's making me feel insecure
Go
because it's
for
kind of
it.
funny and it's kind of kooky, and I feel that it is of the moment. So, I have a picture of here. I gave my husband for Valentine's Day, I gave him a piece of light art. So, the whole idea is that they're lights that we have a big wall that we can't really put anything on. It's on the second level. It's a big blank wall. So, I have put these lights up
Indoors, outdoors.
indoors.
Okay.
It's indoors. So, it becomes like a light sculpture basically. And I thought this was really cool, and you can adjust them however you want. And I just put them up there just to show, and it's night, but it gives you like the vibe, right? So I get it up, I give him the present, and I'm like, well, we can arrange this however. This is just how I did it for now. We'll come back to it. We'll make it really ours, but it's cool. I set it up so that it looks like a meteor crashing into our sun. And now every time I walk by it, I'm like, ah, that's set up. I need to reconfigure that. I have not yet now. And I also have not told anybody else. You're the only person I've told about this so far because I don't want to take my insecurity about this piece of art that looks like an existential threat and like transpose it onto everybody else because that's not fair.
So, there's so much to unpack here, Lori. Okay, so instead of buying like a painting for your husband or something like traditional, you decided to do a light installation art inside your
Yeah.
house, which is totally cool. I'm following that. That's amazing. But once you got it all set up and got all excited and stepped back to look at the masterpiece at which you built, it looked like a meteorite was coming to kill you. That is
That's
epic. That is
yeah.
like, I mean, but that's
You
art.
feel a certain type of way, you know?
Well, the problem is that art does make you feel a certain type of way, and I don't know if that's a vibe you really want to be dropping all day.
I don't think so. Like I said, I just gotta get up there and just move them a different direction. But now I'm like scared that
I have another question about this art installation. Like, can you see it in the daytime? Because your house has so many beautiful windows. Like, you have so much daylight.
you can see the outline of it. I plan to put it on a timer as well. I haven't done that yet, but I do plan to have it on a timer. You can only see like a little bit of outline of it during the day because it is on that wall that has the double story worth of windows. But it looks cool at night. And like I said, it's a huge open space.
I
And
can
and in
picture how
lieu
cool that would be.
Yeah, so it needs to get arranged better so that it's not spitting me out every time I walk by it, which is, it's my house, so it's multiple times in an evening. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's awesome.
We're okay right now, Houston. Houston, there is no problem.
Oh, that is amazing. Good job, Lori. That's a great present, but probably the execution can be modified.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to modifying it. And I tell you what, when I do, I will come back and show you what we end up with. And hopefully it's a little less catastrophic than this.
Well, and I will be spending time today scrolling about light installation artwork in homes.
Oh, yeah. And
I
I did
bet
mine real
there's
cheaply. I mean, you can get them already pre-made, so it's the very specific like image and vibe, but I like the idea of being able to play around with it. At least I did. I don't know if I do anymore.
you might regress to like a more generic version.
Just into the art that is like crayons and coloring pages. Keep it in the lines.
I mean, you have 2 daughters. You should have plenty of artwork.
Absolutely. Oh, so yeah, so that is my show and tell for today.
Well, I don't think you should be insecure. I think it was creative. And I think some kids paint their rooms like space and meteorites, and that's an aesthetic. It's a vibe.
For sure. I think it's just this vibe and my OCD. We found a little bit of a clash.
That's great.
All right, Crimson, I'm going to give you 76 points for bringing up music today because it is a good show and tell, and it is one that we all should be utilizing. I appreciated you.
Well, Lori, I'm going to give you 2,035 points because I do believe we're supposed to be struck by a meteorite in 2035.
No, don't add to my OCD lore.
Sorry.
Now it's time to hear from Crimson and our emotional weather report. What is in the air for our movement this week?
Thank you, Lori. Well, The great news is that we're moving out of February and moving into March, which means spring is on the horizon. And we're seeing that in the data. People are feeling a lot better. So overall, we're seeing 67% of that's a really high endurance score. A lot higher than what we saw last week. I would say a significant increase. And I think what we're seeing is what sunshine can do for us. Moving out of January and February is such an important moment in your mental health, I think, even for those with the best coping skills. And so I think we need to take a moment to say we survived the darkness of the gloomy. For many in the Midwest, we have like a foot of snow on the ground for 2 or 3 weeks. And it was like 2 feet of snow on the ground for 2 or 3 weeks. And it's thawed and it just feels good to have some fresh air without ice. So, where are we getting that high of an emotional endurance score? What metrics are making up for that? Well, we did it, folks. Last week, we said we need to increase our hope and optimism, and we actually did. People are feeling more hopeful. They're feeling more optimistic. They're still feeling efficacious and resilient. And so all the metrics are going up. There's room for improvement, but this is a great trend and something you would hope to see coming out of a doom and gloom of winter. So let's look at where we're showing up dysregulated, because even we have a little bit of endurance up when we're up on our emotional endurance, we will show up dysregulated at times. And it's always, we're still in health. Flu B is still kicking our butts. Stomach flu is going around. Work life and financial concerns, we just can't get out of that flow. And unfortunately, those are things that you can't avoid. So we have to learn how to cope through them. And it only emboldens the argument that keeping our reserves high right now are important, because to Gabor's point, you can't change the reality that there's going to be lemons. We have to deal with them. So we would love to see us showing up dysregulated to these places less often as our emotional endurance goes up. But let's see where we are filling our cups, because as we know, to increase our hope, optimism, resilience, and efficacy, we got to fill our cups. And we are doing that with humans. People are getting out of the house. So when we asked people what it was that was filling their cups, being around people, social gatherings, working out, people are still sticking with their January plan of staying in shape and getting outdoors. Again, 200 million Americans were under ice for several weeks. And so it's not surprising. We're getting outside, the sun is shining. And so it brings us to the advisories. Increased light means we have a little bit more dopamine and serotonin. So there's a little bit of neuroscience in our favor. But the biggest thing is that this is our hope activation window. Lean in and lean in hard. The sun is shining. People want to go out and do things. There's activities. Flowers are going to start blooming soon, so lean in. This is just a reminder, don't wait for the magical motivation. You are going to have to motivate yourself. There's not some magical fairy that comes and motivates us to get out of the house and do the things that fill our cup. So this is just a reminder, get out there, do the things that fills your cup, go hang out with your friends, go on a walk, exercise, keep the cups filled, because you guys are doing really good. And then my reminder is, when hope rises, protect it and let that sunshine amplify it, because optimism is going to be, hope and optimism are going to be what builds the momentum going forward to get you through the spring. So that's all we have.
Thank you so much, Crimson. I have felt more hopeful and I have been outside more. And I don't think I ever really thought about that connection. I'm going to think about that more, because I do think there's some type of awe that comes naturally from being in nature, especially like awe from seeing the sun after you've been stuck inside for a couple of weeks. That really it does something to like it stirs something within me, right? And hope is kind of a tricky one, because if I just look at you and say like, hey, have more hope, that tends to not do it.
Right.
And so I do think that it is one of those things that we get kind of like indirectly. And I just haven't thought about that connection between nature and being outside and that sense of awe with the sense of hope. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pay attention to that this week. But I am glad that things have thawed, that we are moving into spring, although the groundhog makes it look like maybe there might be more. But that's my insecurity showing.
It's 2026. That groundhog knows as much as anyone. Like, who knows? I
Who
fully expect
knows?
a March snowstorm here in
Yeah.
Kentucky. That's just my prediction.
Yeah.
I'm officially a weather
You
forecaster, and
know,
I'm
did
saying
you
that we will get a
feel
snow forecast.
I will say with this last snowstorm, because we had about a week's worth of warning, we knew it was probably going to be a lot. I got to know my house and my prep plan and my emergency preparedness like a lot better, which was definitely a good thing that came from it. One thing I noticed was just one thing I hadn't planned or prepped or thought for is like what happens if we're all stuck in this house together for a week and the drain on that. So I think that's one thing I'm going to be thinking carrying forward. But I learned a lot from this hardship. I'm so glad that it's thawed because it was getting so gross and annoying and the sun's out. I just feel pretty good about it.
Well, we all need hope, so let's hope that everyone has hope.
Yep. Hope, hope, hope. It's now time to move into our feeling of the week secure. The feeling of being secure does not mean that nothing bad will happen or is happening. It means that if something does happen, you don't feel like you're going to face it alone or under-resourced because security lives in your body. It's that ability to sit with something uncomfortable, disorienting, or unclear and still stay present. Security is subjective, it's perceived. What feels safe from one person can be totally threatening to another person because safety is dynamically shaped by our history, by our environments, by the power structures, and most importantly, by our nervous system's memory. There is no universal setting or only one lived experience. Security is an important emotion that helps us to stay present in our lives and helps us to maintain one of the most important things that we have, connection with others. The feeling of security can be fleeting and it can be long term, but wherever you find it, in whatever format and whatever environment, hold on to it dearly because that's an important anchor for your life, your relationships, and your overall well being. That's all for this week's feeling of the week secure. First mini game is called Secure or Suspicious. We're going to choose scenarios and decide how it lands in our bodies immediately. Does it feel like something that makes us feel secure or suspicious? We're not going to overthink. We're just going to notice the first response and we're going to talk about it and see what comes up. Sounds good?
Yeah, let's do it.
And this week, we're actually introducing our very special spin wheel. Pretty excited about that. So let's go ahead, Crimson, give it the first inaugural spin.
Let's do it. What are we going to get? Bam.
Ooh.
You finish
Secure or suspicious. You finish a task and don't feel the urge to explain it.
I think you're secure. Like,
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to explain it. You should be trusted to finish a task.
100.
All right, Lori,
right.
your turn. Spin it. All right. What do we get? Okay, Lori. You're okay not being exceptional today.
I'm so secure in that. That is the intended, engineered default mode in my life. I've worked very hard to get to that point. So that feels very secure for me.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up exceptionalism a long time ago. Although I kind of wish my kid would kick in some exceptionalism or desire. All right, my turn, right?
Yeah. You feel content, but not excited.
That's secure, right?
It's funny. I would say that's suspicious for me. Like, I'd be like, what's up? Because I usually have like, I really lead with like what's exciting to me.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
I
I
can't
guess that's
feel like something's exciting,
yeah, I don't know. So for you, it would be
I'd be suspicious of that. Like, if I was in a situation where I was like, yeah, this is good, but I don't feel excited about anything, I would be highly suspicious of that. I am a very like gut feeling person. And my gut leads me towards excitement. So if I can't feel a situation in my gut, like I spin out. Like I really don't like that.
that's so fascinating
And
because
my
I don't
gut
get
really
excited
talks to me about
that
oh.
often.
That reminds me, once I planned this whole thing for my husband, like I was taking him away. It was a surprise. I told him about it and he was like, cool. And that really made me mad. Why aren't you excited? And I had to learn a hard lesson on that one. I think there were some things he could have done at his end to be a little bit more excited, maybe, but I had to understand that everybody experiences their emotions differently.
Yeah,
And
like
just because you're excited about it doesn't mean that they're going to have that same presentation.
well, my oldest, I feel like we'll be doing something. I'm like, are you having fun? He's like, oh, it's great. But it's also like his lows aren't that low and his highs aren't that high. He kind of keeps it. And I feel like I'm more just like, I'm such a cynic that like I don't even try to get excited. I'm
Yeah.
okay being content. But interesting. That's a good gray one. I like that one.
Yeah.
All right,
All
Lori, spin
right.
that sucker.
I'm spinning it.
Look at that new ad that popped up. That's great. Lori, you don't feel urgency.
Secure. And that's another one I'm really working on. I felt like when I started kind of waking up to how I was operating in a very dysregulated way in my life, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I realized that a big part of my dysregulation was this always this sense of urgency. Like I had just that never dialed down. And when you live in that level of hypervigilance, oh my God, it's exhausting and it negatively impacts everything. And for so long, and this is not uncommon with trauma, survivors of trauma, for so long that like urgency I feel like was used as a very poor replacement for actual safety in my life because the urgency kept me moving versus safety kept me still and understanding better like what was going on and what experiences I was having.
So, Lori, I got to be honest, this is extremely triggering for me because I had an experience this morning before we recorded that speaks to this being a huge outage in my emotional intelligence. To your point, a lot of my dysregulation stems from the sense of urgency and the lack of patience combined. All hard things take time, and my immediate reaction, and I mean, I've unpacked it. I'm therapyized for 20 years. It's trauma from childhood, and it's something I have had the least progress on, I think, in my journey to mental health. Like, once that trigger of urgency hits, it's like it's just full. I go into a
Mhm.
completely reactive, dysregulated state. I did it this morning and it's awful. And I really hope that that becomes a place that is secure and not, because like I said, when I see it, like from my perspective, it's like, yes, like I should be secure with this. I should not feel urgency in it. And I'm getting better. And the world has given me a lot of validation. There have been so many times that in the last year specifically, because I've transitioned into us trying to build a company, and we both committed to building this without being the super overscheduled, busy trauma people. But the reality is we are. And so I have had to try to practice this, and it has been amazing how like put something off. Right now, I'm a guest lecturer at NKU and I haven't done the presentation. And deep down inside, I'm finally at the point where I'm like, why am I stressing? Even if I have to stand up there, I can hold a room 40 minutes. I'm old. I can do this. So, this is something I have to work on and I have to truly like embrace. And the world has actually given me evidence to build my confidence, and I just need to believe it. I'm working on it.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. To me, it's urgency has become probably the number one thing that helps me recognize when I'm starting to head into that space.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's been an awakening this year for me. Like that's why it's such
yeah.
a trigger because it is top of mind. I did it this morning and I
Yeah.
sat down. I'm like, why did I react that way? And it's like because I feel this urgent need to fix something, and it's something that's not going to be fixed instantly, and it's something I can't. It is what it is,
Yeah.
and so good for you for being farther down that path. That's really important because I do think especially for parents, it's so easy to get in a reactive space there.
It is. Parenting's where I'm struggling with it the most, I'll be honest with you, because my kids are 4 and 5, so they're starting to develop little tudes. But with that being said, the urgency piece is interesting. I want to say it is like any coping skill, it snowballs. So the longer you do it, the more it becomes your automatic. I think the hardest part is even getting into that space of being aware. It's hard for me now to connect back to the fact that I honestly think I was living that way 24/7 for many years, which is kind of uncomfortable to admit, but it does make me realize then when it happens, like how much it really speaks to my self-efficacy. Because if I can tone down the dial on that and I was really living in that space, I have the agency to enact change. And again, not make everything just immediately better, not pretend it's not a thing, but to choose alternative patterns and ways to soothe that aren't just leaning into what you and I both said, which is it's a core trauma response.
And not to get all behaviorist, but it's also a cultural issue in America specifically. I feel like my kid needs a sense of urgency in his schoolwork. Like we are ingrained from a young age. We do live in a high pressure society. And so it's not just internally driven, in my opinion. We are
Yeah.
also given so many social and institutional pushes on urgency. And I find it extremely difficult because I know that it's almost hardwiring anxiety into our kids because it did for us too. It's not just the trauma, it's also this weird double-edged sword of like anxiety is good in little doses because it motivates you. Urgency is good in little doses because it helps you be motivated, but it's no way to live. It's absolutely
That's
no way to live.
exactly, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's no way to live.
It's
And if you
horrible.
find yourself living like that right now, I just want you to know that there is so much hope there for you to interrupt that pattern and take a step out. And it just starts with feeling safe in your own body. And that's where some of the somatic tools that we teach and others teach can really be helpful because if you can start to build that sense of safety in your body, you will sidestep the frustration that comes from trying to make yourself feel safe in what is already a chaotic world just by forcing yourself to. Start with your body.
Yep. That's
Yep.
a good one.
And now we're moving on to our coping skill of the week, psychological safety. Psychological safety is the felt sense that you can speak, ask, disagree, or make a mistake or be fully authentic without the fear of humiliation, punishment, or exclusion. It's not necessarily just comfort, it's more of a trust. And it's not a sense that everyone is the same, but more that you have the permission to be you. The thing about psychological safety is that it is always individually perceived from moment to moment. You can't just announce or declare psychological safety. You have to actually demonstrate it, earn it. And it's built through consistent responses, repair after rupture, curiosity instead of defensiveness, and boundaries that are clear, enforced, and predictable. Psychological safety grows when people know that if I show up honestly, I will not be punished for it. And this is a big deal when it comes to teams because this is part of how teams and systems co regulate amongst themselves. It's how relationships and innovation deepen. And it's about how our nervous systems learn to cooperate and to. Give me a second. It's how our nervous systems learn to calibrate to the idea that we can be regulated in very uncertain, dysregulating, or chaotic systems because we know we have the connections, the support, and the system to sustain us while we do. And that's all from this week's coping skill of the week, which is called red, yellow, or green flags for psychological safety. In this game, we're going to name whether a statement gives us a green flag for psychological safety, a yellow flag for not sure, and a red flag for oh no. We're going to go ahead and use our spinner again in this game because we're so excited about it.
I love all the advertisements it provides.
Crimson, let's see what kind of flags you have for this one. Boundary is respected without commentary.
That's a green flag. Give me more of it. All of it. All the green
Green
flags.
flags all day,
All
all
green
day.
flags. That was the easy one. Okay, Lori,
Easy,
your turn.
easy.
God, wouldn't life be so much easier if that's really how it worked? You're really good at handling hard things.
Oh my God. I would love to say green flag, but I think I'm going to say yellow flag. And the reason why I actually saw somebody on social media talking about this, there's like a specific type of insecurity that comes when you're going through a really hard period in your life. And you just feel like every time you see people, you have bummer updates on top of bummer updates and bummer updates. And so, like, you just start kind of censoring that part of yourself because it sucks to be that way. And there's a balance there. Like, we want to talk about our hard things, but we also like to talk about them all the time and just feel like that's all we're talking about ad nauseum does not feel great. And I noticed that I started to do this recently when someone said something like this to me because it just made me feel like that's just a piece of who I am, which might sound strange for the coping queen to say, to be fair. But I didn't know them in this context. It was a different sort of situation. And I just felt it was tinged with a little bit like, oh, you're all drama. And it's like, I mean, I'm really not. I'm really not. So maybe this is actually about my insecurity. I don't know. What do you think?
I took it as an insecurity too, but I took it as a professional insecurity because when I hear the statement, I see a red flag because that means I'm gonna dump more on your plate. Because I do think, it's kind of like the A plus student not getting a high five for the A pluses anymore. Like, it's kind of like saying it could be. I could see it going both ways, which is why I should give it a yellow. But in my life, that's a red flag because that's like, okay, and now it's going to get harder. Let's see you endure it. And I don't want to endure it. No, I do not ask for hard things. I do not want to handle hard things really well. And to be completely honest, I think a lot of people are good at handling hard things and we just deal with it
That's
in
true.
different ways.
It's for it, just not extra work.
I feel like it's an extra work thing. I feel like I don't know. I mean, maybe that's organizational
It's funny.
trauma.
You and I both had like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think I've been on way too many boards. I've been on way too many committees. I've been in way too many corporate boardrooms. That is said to me, and I'm like, that doesn't mean I should do it.
All right, Crimson, you ready for another
Yep,
one?
hit me.
Oh,
Oh, red flag, get better
don't take
vernacular.
it personally. You're red flagging it before he even got the
Okay,
words out.
sorry. Go ahead and read it.
Don't take it personally.
Red flag. Absolutely no in
Yeah.
between. I'm not
Yeah.
going yellow on this one. Don't take it personally is a caveat to saying something that's gonna hurt them.
It's invalidating.
It's invalidated. Like,
Yeah.
that is so teenage. Like, hit me with a 14-year-old. I think my daughter said it to me the other day, and it was about like her inadequacy at something. I'm just like, I'm not taking it personally, but that is like either patronizing or invalidating, and is usually not the best way to engage. Red flag.
Yep. I'm
All
with
right,
you.
Lori, see what you get.
All right.
These are fun.
These are fun.
I appreciate you saying that.
I'm gonna give this a green flag. I try really hard to believe that people are grateful and kind at their very core. I think a lot of times when you see somebody who's not like that, they're either not like that ever, which is a problem, or they're having a really bad moment, day, season, something like that, which doesn't make it okay. So when I to kind of continue that same what I call unconditional positive regard, race basically, is the idea that if someone expresses their gratitude or a feeling that they have, I do my best to believe and to accept it as is and not question it. So green flag.
Absolutely green flag. I feel just as confident that that's a green one as mine was a red flag.
You want to do two more?
Yeah. All right, Lori, hit me. I mean, don't physically hit me. I don't condone violence.
I hear you.
Green flag.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
that's all people want to hear. It's funny. I have a great group of girlfriends right now, and we're moms. We all have our things that we're going through. And I'll text one of them, and she's so great at being like, okay, before I respond, am I solutionizing or am I listening? And I so appreciate it because it's like, I'm here to hear you, but I need to know how you want me to show up in that space. And so, yeah, that's a total green flag.
Love it. All right. Let's see what I got.
All right, Lori. I want another really good one. Someone circles back after tension, which is such a great one given our character this week.
This is a green flag. And I did a big sigh because if it's been a minute and there hasn't been something, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I know that's where we're at and that's the vibe. And to be fair, in this scenario, I could have circled back after tension too, which I do. I do a lot of debriefing. My family doesn't really seem to like that as much, but I view it's important. So maybe one day I'll get them on board. But anyway, my point is that it's a green flag that comes back around. And that big sigh I had is because sometimes, like for me, I do a lot of work with like, managing my bandwidth. So if something feels like, okay, we're just not going to address this, it's not going to be something that we need to talk about, I kind of compartmentalize it away. And somebody coming back tells me that they're invested enough in either the situation, the relationship, me, that, whatever it may be, that now it's kind of like what I was just saying about the unconditional positive regard. Now I'm like opening myself. I'm going to open myself back up to that. I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to engage in that way. but it is energy that I was not necessarily planning to spend that I came from.
No, and I agree because I would say it's a green flag too, assuming that was the expectation set.
Yeah.
If there's a hard conversation and someone walks away with no closure and then circles back, that is good, but more like a yellow. But if
Yeah.
someone says, I am dysregulated and cannot have this conversation, I need to circle back, and then they follow through with the circle back, that's like optimal human behavior right there. So it depends on what happened before this, if it's yellow or green for me.
That's all for this week's episode of the Emotional Endurance Movement. And if this episode made you more aware of how often you're scanning for safety, good. Awareness is the first form and the most important form of protection. Before you scroll away emotionally, make sure to like this like this video, subscribe so you don't miss next week's, and fill out our survey so you can be part of our emotional weather report. Do you want to say anything? Okay.
Um, no, I mean, I don't think, no, I'm out of the moment.
Okay. All right. Um, Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Emotional Endurance Movement. You bring the feelings, and we'll bring the games.
Don't forget, bring the survey results, partake in our survey, and let me have some good data for our report. Peace out.
Give Crimson the good data she wants.
I want data.
Give Crimson the good data she craves.
Peace out.
Later.